Now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is Wake Forest coach Jake Dickert. Jake, I want to start with something that I ask every college football coach that's in year one at a new job. How many hours per night have you been sleeping?
I don't know. You can probably count that on one hand for sure. I know we got here in late December, right? So it was like coming into the late rounds of the draft. We had to kind of navigate our way into a bunch of different things, and it's just been full steam ahead ever since. So as much as required when you're married for 13 and have three young kids that are starting up schools and baseball and uploading a program. So it's been great.
Month of June, busiest month in the college football recruiting calendar, the way that it sets up now. Sleep is about the same as when you got started, or like how's that going?
Well, I don't think we've had a day off as a program since December 20th, so it's been a little bit crazy. June's been great, finally, to official visit, everyone that we've been working on for so long. We had to sign 40 players since we got here. That's been a heavy lift. So to start on this 2026 class and to really lay the foundation of our future, Connor, that's what this is about. And, we'll get into Wake Forest a little bit, but it's a unique place, right? You got to want to be great at everything that you do and be able to finally showcase some of the best facilities and coaches in the country. It's been awesome and excited really for these next 2 weekends.
You took over someone in Dave Clawson who obviously had earned a ton of respect in the ACC. But I'm interested if there was like a day one change that you made. Gene Chizik used to tell me when he got to Iowa State, one of the things that he was most proud of fixing immediately was getting rid of the Ronald McDonald uniforms. It was just a cosmetic thing that he
Sure.
just says, you know what, I got to be able to fix this. Was there something either cosmetically or another area that you just said on day one? All right, we're just gonna tweak things up, even if it's just where my office is located, something that you felt like you had to come in and kind of put your stamp on.
I don't know about putting a stamp on a program, but I know this. I've had a lot of great communication with Coach Clausen. I'm very, proud of what he's built in the foundation that's been handed over. And one of the biggest draws to Wake Forest was the stability of the head coaches, right? We've had three in 30 years, right? So to take over, what is, Connor, the winningest Power Four program in the state of North Carolina the last 25 years, people don't realize that, right? So the first thing we did was just inject Wake with a little energy. Like that's who we are. That's what we do. It's what we truly believe in. And, some people would say Wake Forest, and they would say, oh man, there's a lot of obstacles to winning. We say there's a lot of opportunity to winning. And I think our program needed that shot of life. And it's just a different viewpoint, a different vision. And I think our players through the transition have really grabbed a hold of that. And our senior leaders, Damon Claiborne, Nick Anderson, guys that have been all ACC players, they just really believed in the type of energy that we're bringing. So I just love where that's at. And that's probably the biggest change day one that we made.
How tough is that when you know that you have players that you have to sit down with and have those important conversations with to try and get them to not transfer and to know that, man, if you come across wrong in those interactions, you're going to be just like, wait, I just watched that guy leave when, so much of that is really going to come down to a conversation of their vibe of you.
Well, I think there's a challenge to that, Connor. The biggest challenge is when we got here December 20th, there wasn't a single person on this campus, right? So I had to do it just like we're doing right here. And you know me, I'm a people's person, right? The feeling, the vibe, the energy, like I like doing that face to face, but to do it on FaceTimes and Zooms, there was a whole nother level to the challenge that we acquired, coming so late. And then, having to wait 2.5, 3 weeks before the guys got back on campus. So it was a unique challenge. College football is different. We all know that. As soon as a coaching change, a lot of people are trying to come get your guys. I do wish, the NCAA would say, hey, there's a 10-day period after a coaching change where guys can't get in the portal. I think that would solve or help a lot of these coaches' transitions to at least have an opportunity to get a first point of contact with the players that are at your new place.
Because 30 days is what they're getting to be able to. They have 30 days after a coach takes over. That feels like it's too long, right?
Well, heck, I would take 5 days of no portal, and then yeah, they get 2 weeks to figure out if they're in and out. I just think you got to be able to make decisions on rosters and management and all kind of things. So we just did a good job of making sure all those players that we wanted to come back were just really seeing our vision, right? How is it going to change? What's going to be different? The offense, the defense, special teams, culture wise, there's a big lift early as you're trying to upload a program.
Your time at Washington State, it kind of, you talk about modern college football, it kind of oddly personifies what the 2020s in college football have been, both with the situation that you took over, the circumstances surrounding that, and then the death of the Pac-12 as we knew it. As someone who spent, the previous 2 decades before that coaching at smaller schools and you're exposed to different types of things, what did you learn about modern college football in the last few years with all those different dynamics at play?
Well, I would say this, you said it pretty accurately. I mean, at Washington State, we were in the eye of the storm, right? To handle different types of adversities from every angle and every situation is what we've been dealing with the last 3 years. That's why I'm really proud of the success that we all had there. And I mean, as an athletic department, as a city, as a community, as a college, there was a lot of things that we had to navigate that were happening in real time. And I think the beauty of college sports is it's always changing. And if you can't adapt, if you can't change, if you can't, understand why introducing the money is positive, right? The transactional piece of our game, it's here. It's here to stay. And that's positive for a lot of families and people and a lot of future of 18 to 23-year-old young people. But I think as coaches, we have to stay transformational, right? We have the opportunity now more than ever to impact young people. And what I like to say is they need us more than ever, right? So the mentorship piece has been everything, right? But to sit there and being the head coach and the strongest voice of a university as you're going through something like that, I learned a lot through that, and just really excited about the type of success that we created there.
A lot of people were taken aback when you said, "Look, we're not buddies with Oregon State. We're kind of fighting our own battle." What was that like going through that, seeing all these other teams in the Pac-12 get kind of plucked here, plucked there, and then you're the last one standing with Oregon State, and you're like, "Wait a minute, we're supposed to be allies now?" Like, no, 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 we're all acting in our best interest. I thought it was really refreshing to hear someone say that because you are to every program, every conference, they're all looking out for their best interests at the end of the day.
Well, I think it all started like when I was originally at Washington State, there was a Pac-12 Big Ten alliance. We all know that wasn't going to really be
Rest in
anything,
peace.
right? So, and then obviously, I was sitting on vacation in Wisconsin, where I'm from, when USC and UCLA, exited the conference, right? So it's one of those things as we kept going, you have to have an individual university goal and objective, and you have to have a big picture objective. And we all know at Washington State, the big picture was trying to continue to get into one of these Power Four leagues. And, Oregon State, as much as we were together in this journey of a little bit of misery, at the end of the day, like I wanted to make sure everyone understood, we're rivals. We want to win. There's never a time that I've played Oregon State and said, like, oh man, these guys are in it with us, right? We're competing. And maybe that's just a small town, old school nature that I was raised with.
Play them again this year too. I'm sure that'll be brought up once or twice if I had to guess.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be the first question in the press conference when we go into that week. So it's a tough place to play. Respect a lot of what they've done with their program, but we'll be ready.
I know your background is on the defensive side, but I'm just going to call you a quarterback guru because you've coached teams with Josh Allen, Cam Ward, and now someone that everybody in the SEC is talking about a lot, John Mateer. When you showed up at not Washington State, but Wyoming rather, and you see Josh Allen, it's your first job as an FBS assistant. And you realize every day as a safeties coach, you're going against a guy that's going to go on to do extraordinary things in the NFL. Did you have this realization of, wait a minute, is this just what quarterbacks at the FBS level look like?
No, you're right. It has been an interesting journey. I'm one of two FBS head coaches that have coached at every level, right? So when I
Wow.
finally made it to Wyoming and saw Josh Allen, the very first practice, he rips a field side comeback that is on like a laser beam shot. And I'm like, this guy's different, because you hear all the talk and the noise. What I've always appreciated, though, about all three of the guys you've talked about, got to see Josh Allen senior year. Cam Ward was just the number one overall pick. John Mateer, and you can quote me on this, Connor, is the best player in college football. I believe that. And he's going to go out
Wow.
there and prove it again. That the biggest thing with all three of those guys is the competitive nature and the approach of which they bring it to every day, and how they've gotten not just an offense, but a whole locker room of people to go out there and play for them. I got to see Josh do it. Cam did it in his own unique style with an incredible competitive flair. I saw a tweet the other day about the Titans asking the OC how Cam takes in the offensive plays while he's still talking smack to the defense. I've seen that a million times. That's how he operates. And John is just the ultra competitor, blue collar, small town, chip on the shoulder guy that continues to get better with every challenge. So it's been unique just to see those three guys create elite success for themselves, but also do it in their own specific and different ways.
You did something that's been copied I think now several times in the transfer portal era, and I should have been giving you credit for it, and maybe until I find someone that did it before you, you're gonna be the person that was kind of the first to usher this in. But you get the full-time job at Washington State and you hire Eric Morris from Incarnate Word, who was the head coach there, and his quarterback Cam Ward follows. You did the package deal with the play caller and a quarterback. Did you hire Morris knowing that you wanted Cam as well?
Eric Morris is an elite offensive mind. It was well understood that he had probably the best player in the portal. But I knew as the conversations came up, I still wanted to have a long-term plan on offense. And it just happened to be that he also had one of the best players, right? So Eric's gone on to be a, fantastic group of five coach, and he'll be at this level really soon. So it ended up being a home run in both scenarios, if I'm being honest. And Eric is still a great friend, and we talk a lot and share stories about head coaching and this journey. So I hope, though, as much as it worked out for us at Washington State, that Eric has taken a lot about our program and how we see things a little bit different lens because I'm a defensive head coach, right? So it worked out well, but obviously it stung us on the back end too, right, with the Oklahoma deal. And I think that's part of today's college football where sometimes you hire people that can bring some players with them. And I think that's a unique and different challenge that we're all dealing with.
Let's talk about that move that they made to Oklahoma, because obviously you just gave John Mateer a whole lot of high praise, but the package deal of John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle at Oklahoma could define Brent Venable's time in Norman. Obviously, those guys did great things with you last year. I am admittedly someone who, like, that raised my eyebrows to hear you say that. I'm more of a skeptic just because I'm kind of waiting and seeing how it's going to look with playing against the SEC defensive lines, with the way that he likes to extend plays and stuff like that. Can you convert me, as someone who's more of a John Mateer skeptic, into a believer?
Well, I would say the same thing probably about Cam Ward if we talked this time last year. And
True.
you talking about his fumbles and how is he going to run around and create his escapability and make big plays. I think that worked out, Connor, pretty well, right? So John's going to keep evolving as well, right? I believe, one of the biggest things he would admit that he's got to work on his progression passing, right? And what he does and how he sees defenses. Remember, he was just a redshirt sophomore as he was going through that process. He's one of the best athletes. I believe that. And I've always comped him to Bo Nix. I always have.
Mm.
And Bo Nix, when he was at Auburn, transformed his game when he went to Oregon, right? So that's what I think you're going to see in the next iteration of John. And, it's just cool to be part of his journey, right? We were in late January, Connor, when we offered John Mateer. He was going to go, I believe, to Central Arkansas, and he had an OV to New Mexico. And we saw skills and traits that have been developed beyond measure. But when I knew John Mateer was going to be successful, it was the first practice of fall camp. I'm leaving at 10 o'clock. The lights are out in the stadium, and there's this player down there going through the plays for tomorrow's script, and it was John Mateer. Those are the type of things that nobody will see that's going to lead to all his success this season.
And that's an interesting comp, because I've been searching for one and trying not to be lazy with it, because I think everybody now in this day and age thinks guys who take chances, who can also run really well, that's just Josh Allen. And it's interesting, given your background with Josh Allen, to not necessarily go in that direction. What's the biggest thing that he needs to be able to improve? Is it just that willingness to take chances and kind of know the thing that Bo Nix eventually knew by the time he was done in Oregon of, look, man, they're going to dial up some high percentage plays for you, and if you can trust that, you're going to be much better off.
Well, I think there's a play style that my biggest thing that I've always done with quarterbacks, and especially, having two, I believe, first rounders, is that they have to play to themselves, right? Don't put them in a box, right? They have the greatest keys to the car on game day, not me as the head coach, right? So I know how we approached it and how we prepared, right? But I think at the end of the day, I know that John's going to continue to maximize himself because of the things no one else sees. And I think those are the biggest things of why he can learn how to play certain and unique and different ways. So that's what I'm anticipating. I know they have a tough schedule, just focused on what we need to do here at Wake Forest too, because I think we got a couple good quarterbacks that can really fit into that next big time quarterback mold, right? And I do believe in Robbie Ashford, and I will say this, as good as John was athletically, I think Robbie's the best athletic quarterback that I've been around. And Deshaun Purdy, who was a starter last year at the University of Charlotte, 6'5", 225, and is the first passer since, yes, Josh Allen, that I've seen this type of raw arm. So I'm excited about the guys that we've collected here too at Wake to be hopefully a conversation a year from now. We're talking about those guys.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you make that comp because those of us who have been watching the SEC for a while have seen a lot of Robbie Ashford, and we've seen kind of him have those moments where like, dang, the athleticism is there, and then just hasn't been able to put it all together and kind of be that starter for you. Ideally, would you like to have a situation where it's a true quarterback competition? Do you want to have it figured out early in fall camp where you're just giving one guy the vast majority of those reps with the ones? Like how does an ideal quarterback battle work, especially when you need to figure out, which guy at very different stages of their careers is capable of running the type of offense you want to run?
I think the best part, Connor, is we actually were just went through it. We didn't know John was going to be the starter until probably week 2 of fall camp. And I thought that was a unique and different blend. And we'll do the same thing here. We probably won't even announce a guy, until 30 minutes before the game. And don't be surprised if we play both. I think they have a unique and different skill set from a defensive lens that have two different, completely different ways that you have to, attack and defend these guys. So I believe that's a great thing that we have that type of versatility. But the competition, I think what I learned last year going through it at Washington State is when you have a competitive battle going on at quarterback, it raises the level of your whole organization because they're like, this position is being settled right now. Wide receiver, O-line, tailback. I mean, it's amazing what that brings to everybody else. And the best part of what we have here, Connor, that not a lot of people have in the country is the ability for that one guy, whoever it is that runs out there, to be in the huddle with Damon Claiborne, right? Who I think is a Doak Walker award guy that probably isn't talked about enough in the country, that he's one of the best tailbacks out there. And we're going to utilize his skill set as much as possible to take pressure off the quarterback.
You've got 35 incoming transfers. You had 27 outgoing transfers, which, look, we hear those numbers in 2007 and we're like, what the world just happened at a program? In the year 2025, it's a lot more standard. You've got a ton of roster turnover, as most do in your position. You have a general manager in Rob Schlager that you brought with you from Washington State. How difficult would this job be in today's college football without a general manager?
I wouldn't be able to do it. I
Yeah.
just think it's changed so much that if you don't have we don't even call it recruiting, a player acquisition department, that it wouldn't really be possible. And the reason I say I wouldn't be able to do it because my relationship with Rob Schlager, there's more trust involved in that. This isn't some 1 year working relationship. He was a GA for me back at the University of Wyoming in 2017. He wanted to cut his teeth in coaching. He did that. I brought him with me to Washington State. He was one of the first GMs in the country in 2022 because we saw this thing, coming down the line and our analytically driven approach, his biomechanics and metrics and measuring femur lengths and all the things that we do is just an amazing partnership. And we look forward to kind of building special teams here at Wake Forest, just the way we did at Washington State. But one of the biggest reasons we're here, Connor, because we now can recruit, build relationships, and retain these guys through resources, right? Wake Forest is committed to being great, and I look forward to kind of working with Rob for years to come before eventually I got to send him to where he's destined to be in the NFL.
Do you get final call on roster decisions like that? Like, how does that dynamic work when you have a GM that you know he's the one that's putting in a lot of that legwork? But I imagine there is a certain trust level that has to come where like he sends you a guy and says, "Look, I saw this guy at the FCS level. I know he can come here play day one." Do you get that decision to be able to make, or do you say, "Look, man, if he's your guy, I'm going to trust you, and then we'll kind of figure out what it looks like once he gets here."
Yeah, I think there's a blend. There's never too much, time in the day to not sit down and watch who's going to be coming into your program, right? So we final stamp really everything together. We do a good job and we have a distinct process and how we go about doing that, even in the chaos of portal season and recruiting and transfers and spring ball going on while we need to acquire talent. We do a good job of making sure we always carve out and, very succinct in how we do it, how we need to then recruit them and attack it. And I think that's part of just kind of our whole process.
Last one for you before we get to some rapid fire here. I always say I don't judge year one coaches. I don't like to just because I think some of the roster that you inherit is, more indicative of what the previous staff did. And there's just a lot of different things that you take on that you might not even know you're taking on when you get the job. Is that an outdated take to say that? Like, should we in the media be judging year one coaches, or if we are, what should we be judging them by?
If I'm being honest with you, Connor, like we don't go by what everyone else thinks. We believe in the roster of what we put together, and I'm not an excuses guy. I'm not. I'm not saying, oh, those were Coach Clausen's guys. These are our guys. This is what we're doing. My obligation to the seniors on this football team is to make sure that we're not just in like win now mode, we're in win forever mode. That's what we want to do. Right? I've worked my life from Division III to coach up every level of college football to be the head coach at Wake Forest. We're going to do things right. But I owe it to those seniors to say, let's go get it right now. And I believe in this football team. I believe in what we can accomplish together. One of the other big things we changed here is that there's a million ways to win a football game. The only thing our team needs to do is to find one of those ways. And let's go out there and execute that thing in that moment that gives us that edge. And then we just got to find a way to win. And that could be offense, defense, special teams, going for it every fourth down, onside kicking every play. I don't know what it is, but we're going to find that path to victory because our guys right now are living in the dark. They are there, they're going through our process, and everyone in the light is just talking about that we can't do anything. There's a strong belief in this football team of what we're doing together, and I'm excited about taking that field August 29th.
I forgot to ask you who the other coach was that's coached every single level of football. Is it Caleb DeBoer?
I think it's Dave Aranda. I think it's Dave Aranda.
Oh, good
I think
call.
Caitlin skipped Division III.
That's right. That's right. Coached in a
NAI,
lot of the same
they
areas
won
that
a
you
bunch of
did.
NAI championships.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Yeah, I would have kicked myself and then I would have spent, an hour researching that to find that exact stat. So I appreciate that.
Dave Rand's a big Cal Lou guy. So shout out to all the D3 schools out there. Wisconsin, Stevens Point. That's where I'm from.
Love it. Love it. This has been great. I want to get you out of here with some rapid fire. Just 5 questions. First thing that comes to mind. Does that work for you?
Absolutely.
All right. You're a Wisconsin native. What is your Culver's order?
Oh, that's a double deluxe value basket. Sub out the fries for the cheese curds. That's a lob one. And you better get a scoop of the day. I mean, that's standard.
Scoop of the day, or if you're going for a solo trip, what's your go-to concrete order?
Oh man, I'm a little bit different. I'm gonna go just normal kind of Oreos with some cheesecake pieces, right? So I'm a mix there a little bit.
That's a good mix. People forget you get two. That's the
Right.
key
That's
there.
right.
That Culver's.
That's right.
Yeah. It's your first time coaching in the South. Have you had a welcome to the South moment yet?
Well, not really. The humidity that everyone talks about hasn't arrived yet in North Carolina. It's kind of been a little bit Pacific Northwest the last couple of years. I just haven't found my place of barbecue yet. I'm trying to navigate the vinegar sauce from the barbecue sauce I was raised on, so I'm still working through that.
You'll have plenty of opportunities. If I had to guess. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many cups of coffee per day do you drink?
I'm a 2 cups a day guy and a Diet Coke. in the afternoon is standard. So a little bit of tea in there. So we're always kind of mixing and matching.
That's not bad. I asked Manny Diaz had a very similar answer to that. I'm always expecting like 8 or 9 or something like that. But you probably wouldn't be able to do this job if you were too amped up like that, right?
I think you got to try to be a little steadier in that. I have switched to like Americanos now, right?
Okay.
So look out. That's the next iteration of my coffee journey.
What frustrates you most about the way media covers college football?
Oh, I don't know if anything really frustrates me. I just want them to tell the stories of the people. Right. I think it is still about the person over the player, and the more that we can really stay focused on that, I just hope and encourage everyone really understands because there's amazing stories all over college football. Falili Fa'amui at our place is one of them. He came to us at Washington State 210 pounds off of America Samoa, and he has grown himself into a 325-pound kick-ass offensive lineman. Like it's just all those type of things are what makes college football incredibly special. And let's not lose that as we kind of go into the future of this game.
14,000 calories a day at least to gain that kind of weight.
That and DNA, I think, has served him very well.
This is true. All right, last one for you. Probably the most important question that you're going to get this entire offseason. Have you gotten to ride on the Demon Deacons motorcycle yet?
You know what? I think there was a story about someone a couple of years ago, they let do it and dumped it. So they're very protective about it right now. I do want to maybe get like my motorcycle's license so I can prove that I can do it because I think there's an opportunity for me like to take it through the quad or something after a big win. Right. So we'll work our way towards that. But I've had an opportunity to stand behind it, but they're a little leery on just kind of cutting it loose to me.
That's actually really fair. If one person falls off, that's like 20 years worth of we're the liability. We can't ever head coach getting injured unless he's got, the full motorcycle license and all that stuff. So take care of that first, and then, the big ride off into after a nice win, that'll come.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Jake, really appreciate the time, man. Best of luck with everything that you've got going on in year one and beyond.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. It means a lot to us. Go Deeks.